that will last. Businesses tackling long-term risk and building sustainable solutions for the future. These long-term risks impact us all, protecting energy supplies, safeguarding food security, and making sure the way we live and invest today can stand up to the future. That's why we've brought this group together tonight. Founders that are tackling these challenges head-on, and investors that can help them scale. Through our flagship brand, Sustainable Times, we're building an ecosystem that makes those connections stronger. For investors, it's about having access to the best founders. For founders, it's about being part of something that helps you prepare, grow, and raise capital in the right way. Later this year, we'll be launching our new website. At the very centre of this new website is our new incubator. The vision is simple. Give founders the content, the tools, and the partnerships that take them from good ideas to investable businesses. And that means practical support, but also exposure to commercial partners who can make a real difference, just like our sponsors this evening. For investors, it means you meet founders who have already put in the hard work, who are clearer, sharper, and ready for serious conversations. Over time, this becomes a proper pipeline and a trusted place to find opportunities worth backing. You'll see part of that play out this evening. We've got 5 handpicked founders pitching from our headline sponsor, Sustainable Wealth Group. So get your questions ready. We'll also hear from EQ Investors and Mishcon de Reya in the panel discussions, and also Kinled, who'll share their thoughts on how to pick winning founders, which I'm really looking forward to. But before I hand over, I want to thank the team, Lorenzo, Chloe Ellie, Georgina, Daisy, Jess, Mickey, Carly, Chris and Steve, who've all worked incredibly hard to bring you all together tonight. And I'm hugely grateful for all of the support and effort that has gone in behind the scenes. So I'm going to ask you now to kick off by giving them a warm round of applause. Thank you. And we're going to hand you over to Daisy Moll, who will be chairing this evening.
Thank you, Stuart. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight. I'm the editorial manager, as you can see from that ridiculously large photo of myself. And I'd like to echo a bit of what Stuart introduced us to. So, as investors in this room, you have the power to direct capital in ways that build resilience into a world that is facing environmental, economic, and social challenges. Now, companies that embed that resilience into their core, such as those pitching tonight, are not only addressing today's challenges, but are also positioning themselves to scale to the demands of the future. So, to not take up too much time, and thank you so much for the QR for NASCO, we will be sorting that. We will begin this evening, as was mentioned, with a panel with Mishcon de Reya, and they will be discussing their work with founders and how they work to help them reach scale. This will be followed by an investment deep dive with EQ Investors, looking at how we manage risk and uncover the opportunities that still exist in sustainable investment. Then we'll get onto the pitches. We'll start with 2. Firstly, OHX, and then Leverstore. And then we'll welcome Patrick Aisha of Kinled Family Office to the stage. They have made over 175 investments with more than 50 successful exits. And this conversation on how to pick a winner will be chaired by Harvey Knight, the founder and CEO of Sustainable Wealth Group. After that, we'll hear the remaining 3 pitches, 2 Curex, Le Rouge Francais, and Entercycle. They'll all last 5 minutes, and then we've left 5 minutes for questions from the audience. So we'll have roaming mics. The only thing we ask is to keep the questions short, so we can get through as many as possible. We'll wrap up around 8 p.m, and we'll move back to the networking area, where you can ask additional questions about the investment opportunities you'll hear from tonight. Thank you to our sponsors, Sustainable Wealth Group, EQ Investors, and Mishcon de Reya. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. So, to kick off tonight's event, I would like to welcome to the stage Nicola McConville and Attilio Leccesotti from Mishcon de Reya, a leading independent law firm. And the mic's on. We can hear us? Yeah? So welcome, Nicola and Attilio. I'm really glad that we're kicking off tonight with this panel because we'll be exploring how investors can identify companies that are ready to scale. And we're really going to think about how they get to that point of scaling. So it'd be great if we could begin with hearing how you both work in the startup space. So Nicola, I'm aware you're part of delivering a number of programs to help companies reach scale. And I was hoping you could share some of those tonight.
Sure. So, I mean, I think to give some context, as a firm, we advise on about 200 funding rounds a year. And that can be anything from a sort of a friends and family round through to, for example, the $1 billion funding round of Wave last year. We work with those companies, or indeed the investors into those companies, very much from founders, an idea at times, you know, right through to incorporation of the company, funding rounds and everything else in between. In terms of how we support those founders and those companies, we do it in a number of ways. So for quite some time now, we have delivered a programme called Structuring for Success. We deliver that with various university technology transfer offices, incubators, accelerators, the Government Office of Tech Transfer, etc. And the idea with that is very much to sort of help founders have a healthy roadmap and put the right foundations in place. So that's everything from distinguishing what it means to be a shareholder versus a director. So we run a session that I wanted to call Call of Duties until our IP team thought that Epic might sue us. But so I think we'll call it All Things Bright and Beautiful now. But it really is anything from sort of director's duties, understanding a cap table, understanding what core documents you should have in place, how to deal with conflicts of interest, how to run a board meeting, all of those things that really are, if you get it right from the outset, are the right foundational blocks to indeed help you structure for success, as it kind of says on the tin.
And Antilio, you specialise in bridging the gap between academic research and institutional investment. Now, what is needed for scale-ups in that space to get to that point where they're ready for that level of investment?
Yeah, so we're very lucky that we support lots of spin-outs, academics who have spent years of their career researching amazing ideas and commercialising them into businesses. And part of that journey is raising money, usually from business angels, family offices, venture capital, institutional funds. And so part of our job is ensuring that the academic who is an expert in their field, or the inventor or anyone with an idea, is able to convey their business in a way that an investor will understand, but also advise them on what is expected of them as someone who is starting a business, what is expected of them as a shareholder, a director, what their investor needs to see. And yeah, it's about supporting them as much as we can to not only raise that investment, but live in as a harmonious relationship with their investors as they can.
And we're in a room full of investors tonight, and many here are considering investing in scale-ups. What red flags should you warn an investor to look out for? And maybe what would make an investor feel like a company has got its ducks in a row and they can feel confident moving forward with it?
So I guess that there are a number of things that we would immediately sort of look at. I mean, technology and people are sort of fairly key to that. So if a company tells you that it owns some technology, ensure that it does. And same with people, make sure they've got the right sort of team of people around them. It's a balance, or actually acknowledge limitations. So again, we quite often come across founders who kind of think that they can do everything, or they're trying to cut costs by trying to do everything, but actually recognising sort of the limitations of expertise and bringing in the expertise where it's needed. Sort of two immediate things. And I think the other thing is actually understanding cap tables. So time and time again, we come across sort of companies that have actually misunderstood their sort of cap table. And by that I mean everybody focuses on the far right-hand column, the fully diluted column. And actually the most important column is the one to the left of that. Because the one to the left of that is the one that actually sets out who actually owns what in the company at that given day. And it's those percentages that govern whether a company qualifies for EIS or not, whether a company can offer tax-efficient equity incentive schemes to its employees and to its future employees by way of example. So I think there's one, ensuring that you own the IP, two, ensuring that your people are engaged on the right terms, and three, actually ensuring that you understand the cap table, who owns what percentage do they own, and what things can trigger changes in that. So, for example, if you've got outstanding convertible loan notes or advanced ASAs, safe notes, how does that impact the cap table and when? Are really important things.
Thank you. I think that gives a really nice level of clarity. And bringing it to this sustainability angle, I think it'd be super interesting to hear what kind of spin-outs or scale-outs more outside of the university realm you're seeing as really growing industries.
Yeah, we're really lucky that in the job that we do, we get to see kind of the forefront of UK technology. Look, there will always be a space for life sciences. It's well funded, particularly through the academic network, lots of grants available centrally, and that's kind of a mainstay of kind of our startup spin-out world. But, recently, deep tech, the emergence of deep tech, AI, quantum computing, have seen lots of companies raise huge amounts on pretty big valuations and also be able to exit fairly quickly on the back of that kind of wave. And then I think more recently, unfortunately, due to kind of global circumstances, our kind of defence and dual use sectors are seeing a real peak point as kind of governments throughout the world are seeking to put funds centrally into their defence technologies. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Nicola. I wonder if you've got a kind of final remark or anything to add to that.
Sure. I mean, picking up on the sort of dual use or the defence space. I mean, we've just been appointed as legal advisors to NATO and to their investment fund. And I think anything that has, I chair a spin-out from Leicester University that is essentially a nuclear energy company, and surprisingly enough, dual use. Sort of all those companies that a few years ago were steering very much away when we were doing NSI clearances, saying no, we're nothing to do with any of these sort of secure sort of industries. Now suddenly are something to do with them because they realise the funding's there. And so yes, most definitely that sort of dual use sort of thing is something that we're seeing a huge spike in at the moment, with a wide range of investors, not just institutional investors, but government investors, family offices, a really broad range of people wanting to come into that space.
Well, thank you both so much for kicking off this evening. So can we all give a round of applause to Nicola and Attilio? So next to the stage, we've got Daniel Bland, who is the head of sustainable investment at EQ Investors. They're an employee-owned, award-winning B Corp wealth manager. So can we all join me in welcoming Daniel to the stage? So, Daniel, your role at EQ Investors, you work with individuals, families, charities, all on building sustainability into their investment portfolios. So I thought your expertise would be really valuable for tonight's audience who are looking to bring this into their own. It would be great then to begin with what might be a bit of an elephant in the room, which is the shift in mood we've seen towards sustainability in recent years. And I wonder what opportunities you still see available for investors in the sustainability area.
Yeah, I mean, just to address that point, I mean, politics has changed a huge amount in the last 3 or 4 years, and the good news is sustainable investors don't need to be shifted around by the kind of moving political tides. There are plenty of opportunities out there, and I think there's some that are very relevant to a lot of the companies that we're seeing today. One key area of growth at the moment is artificial intelligence and data center construction. Now that's dominated by some really very big technology companies based out in the US, and just to give a sense of the level of growth that this spending is generating at the moment, I was reading this morning that Harvard University estimates something like 90% of US GDP this year is attributable to the spending on software and infrastructure to do with technology. I mean, it's absolutely massive. Big technology companies don't always sit that easy with sustainable investors, but there are plenty of ways to harness the growth that's being generated by this capital expenditure. So, to name a couple, if you think about data centers, they're energy hungry and they use a lot of electricity. So, investing in businesses that are big, stable, mature companies that are helping build out electricity grids. So, we think about the US energy system. The US capacity for electricity generation hasn't really changed all that much in 20 years. And data centers are going to be growing at something like 14% per annum of energy use. And then flipping that on the other side, we want to think about efficiency. So businesses that are involved in building data centers and making sure that efficient components are used save the operators money on electricity costs, reduce the overall carbon footprint. That runs for water as well. So a lot of these data centers are very water intensive too.
I think a couple of our pitchers will be very happy to hear you talking about this area because they are working in these spaces. And where they are scale-ups, and we're excited to see these technologies come onto the market, EQ Investors doesn't necessarily get involved at that point, but it would be interesting to understand what happens further down the investment pipeline and how that might relate to the scale-ups we're seeing today.
Yeah, so, plenty of our clients, whether they're individuals or trustees of a charity, will be making scale-up investments, more speculative investments. But our bread and butter, what our strategies look to achieve is diversification, provide liquidity, and good risk-adjusted returns. So we're, I suppose, if you think about it in a whole, we're the sort of bedrock and the foundation from which a lot of our clients are able to then make more speculative investments. And then kind of thinking about that life cycle of companies, Revolut has been in the press quite a lot. We're familiar with the UK-based fintech company. It's got an estimated market cap, if it lists, of about £55 billion, absolutely huge. It was only sort of 11 or 12 years ago that they were first looking for scale-up capital. And they were looking to prove themselves in the UK market and develop the growth. EQ investors aren't investing at that stage. We are, if I think about some of our clients at the moment, hold positions in Revolut through some private equity funds. But really where the kind of bulk of what we're investing in is when Revolut lists, they'll be liquid, they'll have global ambitions and capital and stability, and that's really where they feature in our portfolio. And sort of touching on it on a slightly different angle, when we're thinking about impact, you as scale-up investors have some really direct influence on the businesses. You can get these companies up and running, and you can have huge amount of impact on people and the planet. All these great products that are being produced. And as you move through the life cycle, you introduce more nuanced ways of achieving those sustainable objectives. So at EQ, we've got a whole team that's dedicated to stewardship of investments. So that's engaging with boards, working with the asset management community to achieve those sustainable outcomes.
And I wonder whether really quickly before we finish up, we could touch on that risk element, because I think it is something that any investor for any type of investment is going to think about. But I wonder in relation to sustainability specifically, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, risk is so important for any investor. I could spend so long talking about it. I won't bore everyone to death with that, but let's break it down into two different kind of components. You've got absolute risk. So that's controlled whether you're a sustainable investor or otherwise by asset allocation. You use equities, bonds, other types of investments to control the absolute level of loss that you might have or the kind of volatility of your returns. And as a sustainable investor, you'll be buying the same sort of diversifying assets, bonds, for example, to diversify equity risk as standard investors. But you'll be buying green bonds, you'll be buying blue bonds, social bonds. Quick example, EQ clients helped launch and invested in the first Middle East blue bond. That was issued by DP World. So a big shipping company. The proceeds were used to make their ports more resilient to climate change, but also to reduce the impact that they have on the marine ecosystem. So you can get all of the different components there together. And then kind of finally touching on the second point is relative risk. You're an active investor if you're a sustainable investor. You're probably not going to invest in tobacco, fossil fuel companies. So just bearing that in mind and thinking thinking about that from a portfolio construction perspective is really important. But what's interesting is by just building in a few of the key tenets of sustainable investing, you can actually start reducing risk. Good operational companies help reduce losses.
I think everyone, if they've got more questions on that, can come and find Daniel later. But thank you very much, Daniel, for kicking us off tonight. Can we all give you a round of applause? With our first startup, and that is OHX. And can I please welcome David Grundy and Bob Long to the stage?
Evening everybody, and welcome to Energy Vault from Organic Heat Exchangers. We're an energy storage business fundamentally. We've developed an energy storage solution designed specifically for industrial cooling. What do I mean by industrial cooling? I'm talking data centres, air conditioning in hotels, if it was switched on, food manufacturing, warehouses. Industry around the world uses cooling in huge amounts and at huge cost. And they all have a fundamental problem that cooling system works on demand. It switches on and it switches off when they need the cooling. To date, all other energy storage systems cannot support industrial cooling until Energy Vault. And what we've done, or rather Bob's done, one of my co-founders here, has developed a way of storing that cooling to support the industrial cooling systems. And we store it as ice. You all understand the power of ice to cool things down. Your ice cube in your gin and tonic or glass of Coke, you know how quickly that will cool your drink down, but you'll also know that it takes a long time to melt, and that's the fundamental problem with storing cold in ice. We've found a way to get around that. One of our Energy Vault batteries stores 10 tonne of ice. We can melt that in an hour. So just imagine the cooling power that gives. It gives huge flexibility to our customers. As David March says, we've got the best thermal energy storage system in the world. But what does it mean to our customers? What's the proposition? We give three things to our customers. We save them money, first of all. That's always critical. We can give a payback in 2 years, and that's for an asset that will last 20, 25 years. We can also save carbon. We can connect and be powered through solar PV on the industrial site, or we can access low carbon electricity from the grid. And actually, really importantly to a lot of our customers is resilience. We provide additional cooling when they need it, and we also ensure that their cooling system can carry on when they have power outages. The market is global. In the UK, we don't really think about cooling, especially going into winter. But if you go to the southern United States, you go to Mediterranean Europe, Middle East, Australia, cooling there is absolutely critical. It's critical to life, it's critical to industry, and that's where our market is. So actually being in the UK is not necessarily the great place, but we've got a global ambition. Again, it's not just us saying the market's huge. European Commission is very much focused on energy storage as a way of flattening the demand and supply curves for electricity. Without that, you can't have a sustainable world. In terms of where we're at, we've got patents. They've been awarded, they've been granted, they're not just applied for. We've got patents on our technology. We've actually now done 3 trials, one full-scale, proper commercial demonstration trial, and 2 others as well. So we've actually proven the technology. We've got CE certification on the product. We've been through that, what is a really painful process of getting CE certification for our particular product. And we've started to get some real strong commercial partnerships around the world, not just in the UK, that will help us drive the business forward. And we're now just at the point where we've now got a sales team in place, only over the last 3 months, who are now gaining this real commercial traction in the market. In terms of the financials, we are looking at a global rollout and therefore accelerated growth. But actually our plan, if we're honest about it, is that we want to sell the business to a large industrial conglomerate within the timeframes of these forecasts, that's for sure. That's our ambition, that's our vision. We want to get the product into the market and then realise an exit for investors. In terms of the fundraise, we're raising £1 million now, which will get us to profitability and cash positive in the UK but really that's just allowing us to plan for internationalisation. And we've got a vision of a £5 million funding round in 12 to 18 months that will then fund that that global commercialisation. At the management team, there's 3 core directors, myself, Bob Long, who will get up in a minute for questions, and Jeff Barber, who's not here, but also supported by a broadening management team below that. And we've also surrounded ourselves with non-exec directors and advisors. So we certainly feel we've got the strength and depth that we need to deliver this vision. So that's fundamentally it. We're on a massive journey going forward. We can't wait for the globalisation that comes. I'm looking forward to meeting more of you after the presentations, and hopefully getting some investment in. At that point, I'll ask Bob if he wants to come and join on the stage and take questions, because he's the brains behind it.
Welcome to the stage, Bob. So we now have the opportunity to have the audience ask any questions. The question was, how do your carbon credits work?
Yeah, fundamentally our product is a customer product. We sit behind the meter. So we're not particularly focused on the carbon credit market, because of where we sit. We're basically supporting industrial cooling systems behind the meter.
Any other questions? Yeah, that please.
There's a competition.
No, go for it.
There's a competition.
There isn't, in actual fact, not in our direct technology. There is competition in energy storage. I would urge the audience, if they're interested, to have a look at CalMac, C-A-L-M-A-C in America, and Nostromo, which is an Israeli company that features heavily in California. Both these companies use ice energy storage, but they produce it like the ice in your gin and tonic. In other words, if you want large energy outputs rapidly to support large cooling systems, they cannot deliver.
Next question. Can we have the man over there, please?
In areas where you can't disperse the heat, such as deep London Underground tube stations, can your system provide cooling, air conditioning in places where you can't eject the air?
In a way, it can, yes. I don't entirely agree that you can't get rid of the heat from industrial cooling systems, depending on their location, because we can use a working fluid to transport the energy to an area where it can be emitted to atmosphere. So I'm not quite sure what the advantage would be there. My background is 50 years in cooling, and getting rid of the thermal energy has its challenges, but I've not come across impossibilities.
And I think we have time for one more. Can I have the gentleman at the front, please?
What would your technology readiness level be? And I recognise from the slide you put up the chart, where do you need to get to and how long will it take? It looks like you can be ready towards the end of next year.
Yeah.
So the question is technology readiness and where you'll be and what you need to do to get there.
Yeah, our TRL is the 7 to 8 level. We've had full-scale commercial demonstration units built. We've got the CE certification. We can sell units now. The issue we've got selling units now is that we have to make them one by one to order. So we need to move up to 8, 9, where we've actually got a productionisation approach. So that's our next big step, but that doesn't stop us selling now. Does that make sense?
Any other questions? Can we get a microphone to the gentleman just here and shout out?
Forgive my ignorance, but how does melting 10 tonne of ice manage to work as far as cooling is concerned?
On British units, if I tell you that 144 BTUs of thermal energy needs to be extracted from a pound of water to 24 pound of ice, it's a sort of a hidden power band, if you will. When your ice is cooling down your drink, the phase change of the material from a solid to a liquid requires heat to do that. So it takes the heat from your drink.
Understood. Thank you for being so concise.
One question in the middle, please. The man in the black suit.
Thank you. it seems like you're doing a lot of business in the US, and I'm just wondering how your technology interfaces with the Inflation Reduction Act and investment tax credits.
Yeah, certainly, for the work we've done over in the US, particularly talking to our partners over there, we very much fit into that area for support, if I can call it that. We reduce carbon, we manage energy in a very much efficient way. So that very much is an area of support for our customers over there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David and Bob, and if you want to hear more about OHX, you can find them in the networking area. So next to the stage, we have Matthew Journet from Leverstore.
Thank you, Daisy. Good evening, everybody. I've tried to put a compelling title on here. I'm Matt Journet. I'm the Chief Executive of Leverstore, based here in London. And our company makes a battery that doesn't wear out. So take your cell phone. Inside a cell phone's a lithium-ion battery, very similar to what you might find in an electric car. You charge it once a day, 365 days a year. And in 3 years, 1,000 charge cycles, give or take, you'll notice it doesn't hold its power very well. It chemically degrades, it wears out. Lithium-ion batteries tend to get roughly 1,000 to 3,000 charges. Our battery gets 1 million. In fact, in a lot of cases, it gets a lot more than that. And that's really our USP, our unique selling point. So we can go into applications that lithium-ion cannot go, and also at costs that lithium-ion cannot match. So here's one of our favourite examples of where that would work. So if you've ever driven an electric car, you'll know that if you take your foot off the accelerator, the car can decelerate actually quite surprisingly quickly, even before you touch the brake. And what's happening is called regenerative braking. The energy from the car is being converted into electricity and put back into the battery instead of being wasted as heat. And that reduces fuel consumption. So we just do the same thing, but for trains. And how we know this is a good opportunity? So we had a major rail operator come to us and say 3 things. 1, we've surveyed the market and there's no viable solution that we can find. Number 2, the savings are absolutely worth having. In fact, you can save up to 30% on some rail lines. And 3, we've looked at the possible solutions to this, including lithium-ion ultracapacitors, and we've concluded that flywheels are the only solution that's going to be viable, which is good news for us because that's what we make. So this market is absolutely wide open, and we're going to be doing trial with this operator next year. This is our product. It's called the Cyclocell. You can come and see it afterwards. Inside each of these is 2 flywheels. Flywheels store energy in a shaft that spins at very, very high speed. Each of these Cyclocells is a standard size. It's like a giant AA battery. And it's designed from the ground up to be mass manufacturable so that we get economies of scale. They're highly modular. We can densely pack them into containers, into shipping containers, dispatch them very quickly to customer sites. And pictured here is a unit that we're currently building for demonstration for national highways, for EV charging. And we're also building a similar unit for Blenheim Palace. Our shatterproof flywheel is unique in the market. Since flywheels store energy in a high-speed rotating shaft, there's always a risk, however small, that the flywheel can come apart. And this requires flywheels normally and historically to take very expensive safety precautions, for example, burying them underground. Our flywheel cannot burst. It's made from a number of sheets of thin, high-strength, low-cost steel, which are layered together. If a fault or a crack was to develop in any one of those discs, it can't pass itself on to its neighbour. We've effectively patented a crack stop structure. So by making flywheel safety a thing of the past, we've now been able to achieve a new benchmark for safety, cost, and the type of locations where we can put these things. Hopefully you can identify me in this lineup. I'm a mechanical engineer with a background in technology commercialisation and venture capital, and I've also helped take a company public on the Australian Stock Exchange. We also have 2 others in our senior team that have company sales experience. We've got 7 patent families, either granted or under examination, and we're constantly developing new intellectual property that we know is going to be very valuable to our customers. We're currently raising an EIS qualifying £1.5 million. This money is for two things. One is to complete customer trials, and the other is to validate our manufacturing process in preparation for scale-up. We plan to raise institutional capital for growth in the new year. Company valuations we're starting to see in this sector are being completely repriced. So this US flywheel company has just raised, in the past month, $200 million on an estimated $1 billion valuation. And what it really reflects is the explosive demand, not just in energy, but in energy flexibility. And this has been driven by clean energy, decarbonisation, and indeed data centres, which follows on very well from Daniel's talk. And with regards to data centres, we are going to go after these, since our flywheels are the perfect technology for smoothing out the insane power spikes that we're starting to see with AI data centres. We know there's demand because we are having conversations with potential customers in the US right now who are looking for 100 megawatt flywheel systems. The chief executive of Hitachi Energy said very recently that the power swings that we're seeing in our data centres threaten global grids. That's the scale of what we're dealing with here. So we'd very much love for you to join us. We are selling as a company electricity stability in a once-in-a-lifetime energy transition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. We now have time for audience questions. Yes, the gentleman at the front, please.
1 second, I'm just going to...
How does the energy density compare to other mediums?
People often ask how this compares to other energy storage in terms of energy density. We sell dispatchable power, so we tend not to compete against lithium-ion or compare our metrics to lithium-ion because they're selling energy in cost per kilowatt hour. We're selling costs in energy. So we're starting off with an energy cost around about 220,000 per megawatt, with a long-term target in mass-produced products of getting down to around £60,000 per megawatt. So we're very much in terms of dispatchable power, because what we're looking for is solving problems of energy fluctuations, not long-term energy supply.
Thank you. Any other questions, please? Yeah, the gentleman in the middle.
Michael Tolini from Infiniflux. I'm bad news for you because we do liquid cooling for data centers, reducing the energy consumption by 33%. But anyway, the question is, flywheels have been around for a long time, and they haven't really made it into the big time. So why is your technology going to be the big one if all other flywheel technologies haven't done that?
Well, you're very lucky to be privileged to be tonight in the company of people who are going to do just this. And of course, far from my esteemed guests saying we're in trouble, it sounds to me like a jolly good collaboration. So thank you for raising that. The safety of flywheels and the cost of flywheels has been a big problem. So when we started this company, we identified 3 key metrics that would be absolutely critical if we were to make flywheels come out of the cold as a niche technology to a mainstream technology. Safety, cost, and standby losses. And of course, with our patented fail-safe design, which is unique in the industry, straight away we tackle the cost and the safety. And the standby losses, which is the work that we're doing in terms of reducing parasitic losses, is absolutely critical for turning the economic case from uneconomic to economic. And so, for example, if you take the rail industry, we can achieve standby losses that no other flywheel can manufacture. And this is very important because the marginal cost, if you're trying to make savings on a per station basis, are going to depend very much on what your energy decay is in between one storage event and another. And the kind of numbers that we're able to achieve, which is less than 0.5% loss on power, is unprecedented outside the research community. And we're able to do that for what we commonly say we're trying to take gas turbine technology, gas turbine speeds, gas turbine quality, and produce it for automotive prices. And it's fundamentally that approach to cost, standby losses, safety, and innovation in manufacturing that is going to make us completely different from everybody else.
Just to add to that as well, typically flywheels, they're often buried in concrete, and you'll often find that the civil works associated with installation cost more than the technology itself. our inherent safety is just a real game changer in cost of flywheels.
One more question, please. At the very back, just on the right-hand side, man in the grey jumper, blue.
We're importing a lot of stuff from China, most of it coming by sea, but a lot of it coming by air. You showed a picture in your last slide of a cruise ship, or whatever it was, some sort of shipping. Is your technology applicable to either shipping or aviation?
Yeah, well, port decarbonisation was the key application that we were trying to show earlier. So generally with the flywheel, if you can, it's always good not to move them around. So for example, in the rail application, you have a trackside, and ports, you would have it on the dock. So we're looking at things like energy recovery from port cranes. So you've got very, very rapid cycling, large energy recovery needs, which don't suit lithium-ion batteries. You've also got very dynamic loads from EV charging, which has been a cornerstone in our development since we started. So there are a lot of applications we've seen on ports for decarbonisation that don't involve putting things on moving vessels like ships, for example.
Thank you very much, Leverstor. And can we put some hands together for that presentation? So next we have How to Pick a Winner with Kinled. We've got Patrick Eichert coming from Kinled Family Office, and Harvey Knight, the founder and CEO of Sustainable Wealth Group, will be discussing, yes, how to pick a winner tonight. And also I thought to say again, Leverstor is going to be in the networking area, and they have actually brought their flywheel with them, so you can see the hardware. So can we please now join hands to welcome Harvey and Patrick to the stage.
Thank you, Daisy, and thank you for everyone for coming this evening. It's great to see so many people and to see how big this event has got and where the business has come from since starting it in my one-bedroom flat 4 years ago in Beckenham. So thank you for everyone for your attendance. It wouldn't be possible without everyone in this room. So I want to make a warm introduction to Patrick. Been very lucky and privileged to know Patrick for several years now, co-investing alongside several deals within the fintech and biotech space. Patrick, it would probably be a good idea just to do a brief introduction to who the Kinled Family Office is, the background, the history, and then we'll kick off some questions.
Sure. Thank you very much, Harvey. Thank you for being here. Pleasure to meet everybody. Yeah, my name is Patrick Eichert. I run Kinled Holding. It's a family-owned investment company. The company was founded about 100 years ago by my great-grandfather. Our family's been very fortunate in entrepreneurial nature. The main family company was listed on the London Stock Exchange in 1934. The second company was listed in 1955. The third family business was developed in the 1970s, went public in 1984. And some of these family businesses were sold through a series of transactions in the late 1990s and early 2000s. I myself am an entrepreneur. I started my first company when I was under 20 years old. I sold 3 companies in the geospatial software data industry in the early 1990s. I sold a business to the Boeing Corporation. I sold a business to General Electric, and I sold another business to Shell Oil. So I was very lucky to be in the early days of the internet boom, the software boom, and I exited those 3 companies before 1997. And around about the same time, I started to invest quite actively in the very early days of biotechnology. And that has led me on a journey over the last 35 years, investing in what is now commonly referred to as deep tech. So we invest, our portfolio today is about 25% biotechnology, molecular science and drug discovery, 25% medical devices, including robotics and precision medicine, 25% fintech, and 25% digital SaaS, quantum and AI related software services. Today we have a portfolio of 175 investments. They're spread out amongst direct investments. We also have seeded a number of funds. I'm a partner in 12 funds across Europe that represent about 500 million euros of assets under management. And all of them are focused on deep tech as an industry. There we go.
Excellent. Thank you for the introduction. It's much appreciated. And just going into some of the questions, I know you've had lots of really successful exits, some recently as well, Patrick. In your view, what makes the difference between a good company and one that truly breaks through? And is there any particular success stories that you can share this evening?
Okay, so, I mean, we like good companies, obviously. We don't always get it right, but I think the difference for me between what makes a truly successful company and one that is just moderately successful is a good company normally has a strong product portfolio or IP. It has a competent execution, and that's all great. But a breakthrough company that can create massive value change, a breakthrough company for me is one that has customer proof or clinical proof that their product is game-changing, either economically or changing an outcome at an industrial level. The second thing is the management team have the ability to scale. It's all well and good being able to prove that your product works. Can you actually prove that it works with 100 people, 100,000 people, 1 million people, or 10 million people? And the last thing, of course, is the right timing. And timing is not just about luck. Timing is about making sure that the regulatory and market pathways are aligned and that you're able to scale and produce this product or service at the right time to meet customers' demands. So it's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and I know we're going to be hearing from one of your portfolio companies, 2cureX, next. So, and obviously, given your breadth of the investments that you have across the portfolio, how do you decide when to really double down on an investment, or maybe then diversify into something new?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, the reality is we have a really broad portfolio, over 175 investments. What we believe is that there are areas that we are really quite expert at. So life sciences is one, and because we have a lot of internal knowledge, those are areas where when we see an opportunity, we will actually take it and double down. We have the expertise, we have the in-house experience. There are other areas where new factors come along in the industry, and you know, I've been in the game long enough. I was at the early days of .com. Now everyone wants to talk about AI. We've been doing machine learning for 15 years in drug discovery. Now it's called AI. The reality is we would look at those new factors, AI, quantum computing. We won't invest directly in those industries, but we will go through some of our fund partners, and our fund partners have the expertise to actually identify the opportunities well. And this is a really interesting point. 3 years ago, we had 0 quantum computing investments in our portfolio. And in the last 12 months, we've co-invested with 2 of our funds, one in QANT. It's the largest Series B of any quantum company in Europe this year, 300 million raise. We also invested in Black Semiconductor with Porsche Piech family in Austria, and that's actually raised over 600 million euros. We would not have done that alone. We've done that in partnership with funds that we have very close relationships with.
And I know how important it is to develop those co-investment partners, because they're very, very big rounds, right? You can't do them all, Patrick. But do you continue to invest into later stage businesses? I mean, what are the benefits of investing into maybe a later stage business after Series A?
So, for better or worse, we have a reputation of being very early stage investors. We take a lot of ideas out of universities, out of academia, out of the 22 companies that we've taken to IPO. 80% of them have come from university ideas. So we're very well known for being early stage investors. Having said that, for the last 10, 15 years, we are also very dedicated to later stage investments, Series B, C, D, E, F, pre-IPO rounds. We do a lot of pre-IPO rounds in the US. I have 16 companies in my portfolio in the US. Many of those have been around since early 2000s. The reality is 80% of the income generated within Kinled is generated in pre-IPO rounds. So that's not seed capital, that's much later stage. And, you know, a really good example would be Araris Biotechnologies. It's a company, we did seed it. It came out of the University of Zurich. It was valued at 8 million euros when it was first raising money. We were the seed investor. We followed on into Series A, Series B. They didn't go to an IPO. They got acquired in March this year for $1.1 billion. But we actually participated in the last round that they did. And that was a Series C round. And the multiple on that last round was so far in excess of the multiple you can make on an early stage investment.
Just been told we've got 1 minute, so I've got one more question for you, Patrick. What market shifts or technologies evolve quickly, and how do you adapt your strategy with your portfolio without losing sight on the long-term goals?
So look, we know our market really well, and our market tends to be bringing academic ideas to commercial fruition. I've done this with over 35 universities around the world, many times over, and I think that's what we are really good at. In the last decade, 10 to 15 years, we focus more and more on our fund investments, and our funds are independently operated. I don't manage them. They're managed by independent chief executives and boards, and they focus heavily on identifying new technology. So we talked about quantum, we've talked about AI. We are heavily invested in fintech. 25% of our portfolio is in fintech. We've got some really exciting companies, 2 or 3 of which we've taken public on the London Stock Exchange. We've got companies that have been regulated as financial service providers or banks. I think it's the job of the fund directors to identify exciting new innovations and actually tell me this is why we need to be going in this direction. And the reality is we have focused a lot, particularly in the last 2 years, on quantum, AI, and there's some really interesting stuff happening in insurance tech, financial technology, real estate technology, property technology that we're really, really excited about.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for your time, Patrick. And I'm really excited to say that we've been co-investing alongside Patrick over the last several years. Using SPVs, we're able to get access to these institutional backed opportunities. And I look forward to hearing about 2QRX, one of the portfolio companies this evening. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Patrick and Harvey. And yes, we are about to hear from 2QRX, one of Kinled's investments. So please can we welcome to the stage Ole Thaystrup.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of people here. That's fantastic. Yeah, my name is Ole Thaystrup. I'm CEO and founder of 2QRX, a company that is based in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I will try to go quickly through what we are about. And first of all, this is the problem we want to solve. Every cancer patient responds differently. It's not a surprise because they are heterogeneous and thereby they respond very differently. Today, we actually have more than 300 FDA-approved drugs for cancer treatment. The way we increase and improve patient outcome is not necessarily to increase that number, but that is to find diagnostics that can match the patient with an efficacious treatment. That is exactly what we do. And the method is called IndiTreat. It's a test that we have developed that is able to match the individual patient with an efficacious treatment. What we do is that we take a small tissue sample from the patient's tumor. Wherever it is, we take a small sample. And then we can make replicas. We can make copies of that patient's tumor. We can make these replicas work in the lab as if they were in the patient. We have a lot of data showing that they grow exactly as they do in the patient. We then challenge these small guys, tumoroids we call them, with these drugs or combinations thereof. You see the top panel is a situation where we have provided a treatment to which the patient was resistant. You see that tumor, that microtumor just grows. Whereas in the bottom, we have found an effective treatment that will completely block progression of that tumor. Even more important, this works not only in the lab, it works in the clinic. Here, I just present a trial that we have done. It's a prospective interventional trial in colorectal cancer. That's the third largest cancer we have. And we took the most difficult patients because that was late-stage patients that are very difficult to treat. We actually came, the trial concluded here about a year or two ago, and we improved patient outcome with 150%, and that is simply unprecedented in this patient group. Is this something that is needed? Yes, it is. We had a survey conducted amongst 140 oncologists throughout Europe. And what they said was, first, as you can see the first panel here, that new tools to support therapy decision in colorectal cancer is urgently needed. So they need a new tool. And about 67% of these want this test to be conducted on their patients. We then went to 80+ hospitals that had shown interest and discussed this with them, and they were in complete agreement with the survey. On top of that, they said, we would like this to be done in our hospital, not in your lab in Copenhagen. KOLs, international key opinion leaders, agree with us, both in Europe and in the US. How do we solve this? We have actually pushed hard over the last couple of years to make it possible for us to place next year an IVDR, that's the new IVD regulatory program. That's really tough to get technologies through. We will have such a system ready next year. Actually, late this year, we expect to be the first company that have IVDR certified such a functional drug sensitivity test. On top of that, we are automating elements of the IndiTreat technology, and that will allow this to be done in hospitals. And in 2026, we will have it out in hospitals for and generating recurring revenue. We've just looked at the forecast for revenue. We're actually, a very modest number of hospitals gives us a very attractive forecast and revenue. These are the guys doing it, a passionate and experienced team on execution, board of directors. We have the pleasure of having Patrick, and we have an advisory board constituting people from the US, Europe, and the UK. And I don't need to go through sort of the foundation. Hopefully you have heard that from the discussion I gave you, but I can say that we are going after 7 million euros, and we have already secured a little bit more than 30% from existing investors. We will use that to expand the commercial organization, produce the final instruments and kits, and we'll get the regulatory approval in other territories, and partner staff and additional clinical trials in additional cancers. And with that, I thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Ole. Has anyone got any questions? The gentleman just there.
You've got IVDR, which is great. when you want to go to the FDA, you've got to get PMA, which isn't validation, it's trials. Isn't that going to be extremely expensive for the amount of money you're trying to raise now?
It's actually interesting with the regulatory system at the moment. A few years ago, we all said the easiest is to go through Europe and then subsequently US. Now it's a little bit turmoil in the US now, but it's actually turned around with the IVDR regulatory system. That's actually tougher than the FDA. So we believe we will have to go through probably 510 in the US. We already have potential partners. We have one of our board that is from Georgetown University in Washington. So we believe that it is achievable, especially with the IVDR approval.
Next question, please. The gentleman just there, please.
Hi. Sorry, forgive my ignorance. You've got obviously very good board directors. We heard from Patrick just now. Just curious, like, why do you need external funding? Because I mean, Patrick could just click his fingers tomorrow and just get you the money you need.
Let me have that. Why we didn't get what funding?
No, why are you looking for external funding? Because I mean, you're looking for a 6 million raise, as far as I'm aware. I mean, we just heard from one of your main board directors, and it just seems that you're quite well connected in that department. So just curious, that's all.
I mean, I think I'm in no doubt that this technology will be an everyday test in the clinic, but there is a race. Doing 3D tumors of solid tumors, 3D copies, is something that others are doing in other industries, in pharma and in biotech. We are the first in the clinic, and we simply need to go fast now, and therefore we go for significant funding.
Next question. The gentleman just here, please.
Really interesting technology. There is one company in the UK that's doing it that I was chairman of until about 2 years ago. One of the fundamental issues is you're trying to change pathways of treatment with what you're doing. So precision medicine for cancer patients. Have you found a reluctance from UK hospitals for you to have the tumour biopsies essentially, which is what you're looking for, as opposed to liquid biopsies, and looking at that, and then being able to form what I call the personalised treatment pathway changes that are necessary? Europe has proved easier to change, and the US I don't know, but certainly the UK is reluctant because it gives it such an array of immediate mass treatments before you can establish the new pathway.
We actually have an active collaboration with Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. And if you saw our clinical advisory board, there we have Andrew Becks from Birmingham. And therefore, we have actually worked, when we talk about Europe and the UK, yes, we know that it's different, but there's actually a lot of interest in the UK to use these 3D tumor systems. I think it's because they have now realized, also here, that genomics won't do it. Genomics is fantastic of diagnosing people, but not in defining the trait for that diagnosed disease. And that's the same we see here.
Thank you very much. Can we put our hands together for Ole? We now welcome to the stage Elodie Carpentier from Leroux Francais.
Hi everyone. So I'm really happy to be here today
And first of all, I want to thank Sustainable Time to welcome us on this stage and to meet with you, with their community. So I'm a biotech engineer, so my name is Elodie, and today I want to show you something that will disrupt the color industry and also the beauty industry. So we want, with Le Rouge Français, to become a pioneer in dyeing plants offering with a sustainable alternative to current chemical lake industry. So color is everywhere. Color is everywhere in your universe. Color is everywhere, but in your textile, in your car industry, in your airplane, in beauty, for example, in color industry like makeup or beauty, skincare. But do you know that 99% of color and pigment is coming from petrochemical? And the 1% remaining is coming from minerals. So today, as a biotech engineer, I propose to really make a difference with what we call plant-based color. So we have 12 patents on this innovation, and I developed during more than 7 years a technology, a green technology, with a thesis and different engineer and doctor in my laboratory in the south of France, which is plant-based in color with supercritical CO2. So the idea is really to extract with the gas, so no alcohol, no petrol sourcing ingredients, and to concentrate pigment to give, for example, in cosmetic application, more than 100 products that we developed in 4 years in my laboratory for color with plant-based and organic certification. So this is unique, 12 patents, but I did not invent anything because we are inspired by ancestral culture. So Cleopatra, the most beautiful woman on earth, we said, already sublimated her skin in Egypt antique with madder roots. We also have Amazonian people who use the plant called lipstick tree, which is Rucu uricum, to protect their skin from the sun and mosquitoes. So we are inspired by ancestral culture, what we are doing since ever, and that work. So with Le Rouge Français, we are also an hybridation between luxury and organic core value, and we target the niche perfumery opportunities, and with this 100 SKU products that we developed in really short months, we developed the sourcing part with extraction, which is the unique know-how in addition to the 12 patents, the extraction, infusion, but also the packaging. So in terms of packaging, we wanted to have something with a high desirability, but sustainable, like your plants and the formulations that protect your health. And we use castor oil ingredients that I found in airplane industry. And you can see the external packaging is like the art of gifting with this premium luxury positioning, or this collection with the Opera of Paris with plant-based laser. So it's apple skin laser. So this is unique, and we developed 200 point of sales with this unique USP with vegetal color patented, organic vegan certification, and biosourced and recyclable packaging in 12 countries in 4 years and a half. So here you have some visual of the plants that I mentioned with the lipstick tree, madder roots, that we cultivate and harvest in organic way in the south of France. And we are the first company speaking about regenerative economy. I was selected last week in South Africa in G20, in the international summit, to make some recommendation on health and sustainability to our leader, to a worldwide leader. And I'm really proud to make a transmission to new generation of people, new generation also of women, to show that we can have beauty products with generative economy philosophy. So here you have some example of our retail. So we were awarded also Sustainable Brand of the Year in US and in Middle East. We are also UK-based company and French company. And we have all this really premium and luxury international retailer and distributor, like Neiman Marcus, or Credo Beauty in US. Like you can find us in London, in Dunbar and Croydon, sorry, and also in China now. This is the map where we are, and the deal flow that we signed recently and our flagship in Paris. We are close to conventional brands like Chanel, Dior, Guerlain, and some luxury palace around the world. So just to finalize, this is our business plan. So we already achieved the 1 million, so the proof of concept is done. The traction is here. We're targeting the 2 million and 10 million in the coming 3 years. And we are raising 1.3 pound with you today. And this is your team, and this is the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elodie. Has anyone got any questions for Elodie? Yes, sir. In the front.
Thank you very much for the presentation. What are your price points compared to some of your competitors? Maybe also people that you will work with in the future.
So what's your price point compared to competitors, which might also maybe be your clients in the future, because obviously you also source the ingredients. And also, if you can talk about production costs relative to others.
So in terms of price points, we are on this massive market called Mastige. So we are not mass market, ni high premium brand. Prestige, we are really Mastige, so close to Chanel, Dior, Guerlain. For example, it's 45 euros for lipstick. And as we are sustainable, it's also 25 euros for the refill part. And in terms of COGS, we are really comfortable because, as you see, we open 12 countries and really far countries, and the minimum is to do 10 to 80, to duplicate 10 to 80. So the margin in cosmetic is really nice, especially in makeup with 80 to 18%.
Thank you. I think we've got one more question.
Hello. First of all, fantastic brand. Looks great. My question is, with all of the innovation that you've put into developing the pigment, what's the balance between being a consumer-facing brand, which you're obviously developing, versus just taking that pigment technology and running a B2B business, supplying other brands with that technology, which feels like it could be also quite scalable?
So this is all the magical thing with this brand, is that we have a strong know-how and patent that we can license. So we have this B2B green tech business, and we have done the proof of concept on the highest regulatory and the highest standard, because as you know, it's FDA, ANSM, so like pharmaceutical industry, standard and regulatory. So this is a good example to start this licensing part, but the brand and the consumer product business will feed this the green tech part. So one will feed the other.
Thank you so much. Can we put our hands together for Elodie? And you've brought with you on the train from Paris a display of many of your products, which are just going to be in the room next door in the networking area. And then to close this evening, we have got Entocycle. So we have Kieran Olivares Whitaker from Entocycle. So please can we welcome him to the stage.
Hi everyone.
So my name is Kieran O'Reilly-Witzko, as was just said. I am the founder and director of Entercycle. We are the world's leading insect technology company. And yes, I did say the word insects. So what you're probably aware of already is that we waste at least 30% of all the food that we produce. And that already makes essentially 10% of all the greenhouse gases in the world. What you probably don't realise is that we are going to be about 500 million tonnes of animal feed short by 2050, and that's due to a whole range of factors. And that's to feed our chickens, our pigs, and our fish. Now, the current food system is broken. You've seen that most soya and fish meal are completely unsustainable. You've seen the images of deforestation. You've seen the images of overfishing. And this is only getting worse, and it can't continue. So our mission is to turn this massive crisis into a huge opportunity by converting food waste into animal feed using insects. Yes, again, I said the word insects, because they are the natural food for animals. It's called fly fishing for a reason. You already pay a premium for free-range insects that are eating, running around the field, for free-range chicken because they're running around the field eating insects. We just do this at scale. So we build and deliver industrial-scale insect facilities to our customers, turning this food waste into a high-value animal food. Now, we use the power of the black soldier fly, probably nature's most ultimate recycler. They grow from a grain of sand into an inch-long protein bar, growing about 5,000 times their body mass, eating food waste in under 2 weeks. Now, it uses almost no water and no land because we can farm vertically, and it produces the actual feed for the animals. They've already been regulated because they're a non-disease, non-pest species, and they can be used all over the world. Now, we have developed and patented a modular tech platform. So essentially think robotics, automation, and climate control to farm insects, all powered by AI. And this is built to scale globally. Our technology enables our customers to farm billions of insects in real time. And I literally mean billions of insects. So we generate revenue from multiple streams. Upfront, long-term revenues from project development fees, recurring revenues from service contracts, and then an ARR from our software licensing. So investors aren't just funding just one facility, you're actually funding an entire platform that's rapidly scalable anywhere in the world. And it is a truly global opportunity. So we've already delivered £4.4 million worth of projects to date, and this is an industry that Barclays has identified to be $8 billion by the end of this decade, because we have such a fast-growing demand for kind of more farming and more feed. And we have the team to prove it. So we have, I think you said earlier, it's all about the team. So I know that I can't do everything. So what we've done is gone and hired the biggest and best. And we have the largest kind of insect-focused technology team on the planet. Oh, sorry, apologies. Jumped to the wrong slide. We also have developed our sales showroom, so one of the most advanced insect farms in the world here in London. And this allows us to actually sell our technology as a showcase showroom, but also gives us a competitive edge because we keep R&D innovating. Now, we've also delivered projects into new and novel fields, such as kind of waste management, so kind of manure management. This is a state-of-the-art R&D facility up in Yorkshire, Leeds. As I said, there's a huge global demand for this, because to meet that 500 million tonnes of feed shortfall that we're facing, we need a massive amount of development. So, for example, here in the UK, we're about 80 to 95% dependent on imports of protein feed. So if we scale that up, that looks about 5,000 factories that we could be building globally, which means that we are already developing the most advanced factory here in the UK, the first industrial farm, and that's with a blue chip client in the waste industry. The total project worth is over 30 million. We also have a strategic partnership with the likes of Beulah, the €3 billion food processing company, to actually build factories globally. So we're working on projects from the likes of Saudi Arabia to Spain, from Asia to Australia. And our pipeline is now over 400 million across the globe, and that's a qualified pipeline in 5 different continents. And as I said earlier, it is all about the team. So we've gone out there and we've hired the largest, largest multidisciplinary team in the insect space, hiring out the likes of YC, Amazon, Rolls-Royce, Beulah, and the finance house Equitix. Sorry, this button is not working. Perfect. So having designed, developed, and delivered this technology, which is patented, we're now closing a further 1.8 million to accelerate our commercial pathway and capture this global market opportunity. And we've already got over kind of 500,000 already committed to this round. So we look forward to you joining us on this mission to help save the planet, to make sure that we have a planet for us and our children by using the power of insects to turn food waste into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Now, thank you for taking the time to be here this evening and listen to us all. I'd like to invite two of my colleagues to the stage to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Kieran. So we're back to questions now. So whoever has a question, please just raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. The gentleman at the front here, please.
What volume of food waste to what volume of larvae are we talking about?
So it depends on the food waste, it depends on the moisture volume, but approximately 1 to 4. 4 to 1.
Any other questions? The one just in the middle here, please. Sorry, there. Yeah, you're on the row.
Yeah, hi. Awesome pitch, by the way. Angel investor, a couple of YC companies on the portfolio. I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about what's happening on a global scale? Who else is out there? What's your USP? Is it a winner takes it all market? How much of your market can you actually capture?
Perfect. I'll hand over to my colleague.
Hi, I'm James. So it's a good question. So with this is a market where, frankly, there has been some failures in this industry. That's a sign of the market maturing for us. There are other companies that are doing it, but what for us makes the business defensible and creates a competitive advantage is two things. So firstly, it's the tech platform that we've built this on. So there's 3 patent families within the business that sort of mitigate the 3 critical control points in how you breed insects at industrial scale. It removes the variance that you get with the biology. The second element is actually the methodology as to how we develop projects. So we have expertise in infrastructure finance through John and his expertise, and we do more of the heavy lifting on projects. Now that extends the sales cycle, but what it also does is it de-risks them. So we find the feedstock, we can find the sites, we can find operators, we bring the finance to projects, and we even place the offtake. And so that gives us competitive advantage from those companies that only do sort of the capex hardware. And in a new and growing industry, it's really, really important to build the credibility to get these projects moving, that you take on some of those bigger pieces. It also means that we can monetize those elements too.
Thank you. I think we've got time for one more question. This gentleman just here, please.
Thank you for an amazing pitch. I think the competition may be not in terms of another company doing similar things as you do, but more looking at the chain of where food waste goes. Because there's lots of activity in doing something with food waste much closer to the source. And so how do you look at that? And do you see that that is a potential risk to your business?
Yeah, so food waste, depending on the market, can almost be a competitively traded commodity. So take the UK as a good example. A lot of food waste is going into anaerobic digestion. Now, those industries are heavily government subsidised. We've built this and made the business model work without any government subsidies. We also look very carefully at the markets and the projects that we work on so that we are mitigating feedstock costs. We try and find those headache feedstock costs. A good example will be whiskey draff up in Scotland, where the volume of it outstrips the supply of AD, and therefore it's going into landfill or it's being incinerated. And so they're kind of headache feedstocks that have a P&L and a sustainability cost to them. And we also, and we're increasingly looking into markets now, I'm out in Saudi Arabia in a couple of weeks' time, because that's a great market where very low regulation on food waste, but the food waste per person is almost double that of the global average. And so as an opportunity to find volumes of feedstock that aren't being processed, that's where we target our resources.
Thank you very much, Entercycle, for concluding our evening. So with that, we have heard from 3 panels and our 5 pitches. Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you to the people and companies who pitched today. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Sustainable Wealth Group, EQ Investors, and Miss Gondoraya. The evening will commence with drinks and canapes next door, and you'll find all the companies there as well. Thank you, everyone.